to Concrete and Coffee, presented by Glue Down. I'm your host, Chad Bruce, and today I have with me Nick Sandru with Sunshine Supply Company based in beautiful Southern California, which means he's probably having a better morning than the rest of us are. Now, granted, there's no commuting going on right now, and probably the roads are empty, which even makes it better for us. Sunshine Supply, if you don't know, is a company that focuses on sealants, coatings, adhesives, and other waterproofing solutions to a variety of construction applications. They've got 4 locations in Southern California, 1 in Salt Lake City, and 1 in Denver. Nick, welcome to Concrete and Coffee.
Hi, Chad. How are you? Thanks for inviting me. This is awesome.
Hey, man, we're happy to have you on board. So kind of tradition for Concrete and Coffee, we're going to talk a little bit to start with about our cup of joe. So what are you working with today?
I always use vanilla cream and black coffee and just douse it with a lot of vanilla. So make it nice and sweet.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to tell you, I brought something special for you today.
Ooh,
so
what do you got?
I got my Don't Mess with Texas mug. So I know you're a big fan of Texas.
California.
Exactly. For you Californians out there, I brought this special for you.
Okay.
In addition, I'm actually really excited about this particular cup of coffee this morning. We actually had a person who's a fan of the show, Derek with Knoxcrete, sent me an email a few weeks back, and he said, hey, man, you need to check out the Black Rifle Coffee Company, which is a company that's run by veterans. And they focus on a lot of veteran opportunities out there. And so since I'm about to marry into a former Marine and current Marine family, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, Marines. And so I also chose them because you have 2 people that work for you up in Denver, James McPeters and Nick Burney. Apologize for that, Bernie. They're both former service members too, so thank you for all the service people and for what you do.
Thank you guys. Definitely appreciate all the veterans and everyone out there, that's for sure. Actually, we donate and we're a big part of the veterans group out here actually in California, so it means a lot to us.
Absolutely. I know you're a big fan of the people that come from their work ethic and just their background, so good to have them. So today I wanted to start off on people that don't know you. I want to bring them in because you're a very highly regarded person in the waterproofing space.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'll take it.
Probably one of the most, definitely one of the longest term people that's in the industry. You basically grew up in it, which is what I wanted to start with. Yeah, you got the gray hair. I was noticing, I wasn't going to comment. I'm on almost 2 months of no haircut at this point. Dana took care of some of the sides a week ago. She did a pretty good job. But you're looking high and tight still. I'm kind of impressed. Yeah. Have you been cheating?
Why I'm high and tight? I'll tell you why, because my wife cuts my hair.
She's doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you very much. Everyone always says, I can't believe your wife cut your hair. I'm like, who else can cut a bowl haircut like this for me?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Thanks. I look good, man. I appreciate it. I'll take it. I'll make sure she knows.
Please do. I may need her to send some videos to Dana because if this goes on very much longer, I'm going to end up with like a hippie haircut pretty soon here.
Well, we're going to start we're going to start a barbershop. You guys can all come to California. I know a good place and a good hair cutter.
Hey man, looking forward to it. Next time I'm in town, I know let's go. We'll go out and have dinner, and your wife can cut my hair.
It'll be different, but okay.
Yeah, sure, whatever it takes.
She loves us talking about work. Trust me.
Probably, I'm sure. I am sure. All right, so and to that point, let's actually jump into this because you and I have an interesting, similar background in our industries. My father sniffed a lot of glue, and I was raised in a glue family, which ended up being my career here. And your father was a chemist for Tremco and had a lot of industry experience. So I wanted to see if you could maybe talk to us a little bit about your father, his experience in waterproofing, and then what it sort of drove you to get into the industry.
So it's kind of a hang in there with me. So my father started working at Mamico, okay, and before Tremco Mamico merged, so he started at Mamico and he was about 25, 26 years old. And actually I have pictures of my dad building his own reactor and then building his own CMU walls within that area to protect that reactor. The funny thing is, I know you can't tell from my height, but my dad's 6'5". So to see this tall guy who completely cheated me out of height, not complaining, just a little. But anyway, you see this big man building this wonderful, huge CMU wall and reactors and stuff, and you see this. It's funny to see that tall of a guy in a white lab coat, and that's really how it started with us. Is just he just kept working with the company that gave him the opportunity, right? And he just kept trying to mix and match, just kind of like your father, tasting, right? Always tasting, as you know, I taste some of your products. Not highly recommended out there, but how I learned it. And so my dad just kept working with a bunch of chemists. He was able to invent some of those wonderful things that we call adhesion promoters, and that was his claim to fame, I believe. And he doesn't talk about it much. He's obviously retired now, but he has been a big portion of why I'm here. He basically bred me, just as you and I have spoken in the past, that you were bred for this. My dad's a chemist, though, and I'm a sales rep. So you can see the contrast between a 6'5" guy that's a genius and a guy that's 5'11" and talks a lot. But he's still proud of me. At least that's what he tells me.
Absolutely. Well, it's okay. I think adhesives and eating adhesives actually stunt your growth, because my dad and I neither of us are very tall people.
Okay.
For those out there. All right, everybody. You may notice that Nick is in a new location. We had to move him for some technical difficulties. We now are in a much better position. No more clicking. So, Nick, thank you for bearing with us while we work through that.
It's a team effort.
Absolutely. Okay, so what we were discussing prior to getting cut off was your background with your dad and your upbringing, being around him and in the waterproofing space. And so what a lot of people would be interested in probably knowing about from you is, what was it that sort of led you on the path to work in the waterproofing space? So what was your upbringing like? Tell us a little bit about that background.
So, okay, well, upbringing and everything like that, it was, I have two older sisters and I have a twin brother. Yes, there's two of me actually out there. You guys, the folks would like him better. He's very quiet and he's taller too. Same as my dad. I tell you. Anyway, I digress about height. But what we were always taught was to push and be leaders. That's the way our parents raised us, question authority, but with respect. If you don't get an answer, then, keep pushing until you get an answer. So you can imagine how we get along with government people, right? But the reality of life is we were always taught to keep pushing, to better yourself. And the most important part about being successful is you better do it with people around you. Because if you do it by yourself, it's going to be fleeting and it won't last long. And that's one of the reasons why I love our industry, actually. Salespeople, you get all high and mighty on yourself for a couple of jobs, and then 3 months later, you go, well, maybe I'm not so good anymore, But it's a humbling business. But so that's the way my dad and my mother taught us. So when I went to school to play baseball, I was one of the very few that wasn't allowed to screw around, if you will, as far as I went and, I did major in business management, but I also minored in marketing and finance. So you can see how this whole degree that I earned really fits into selling, right? So, but it was just that whole type of thing. Is my parents is, look, I'm happy that I finished with a 3.4 in college. Playing sports, and most people that have played sports in college know you're not there as much. But my parents were, pushed and said, do better. So that's really where it was. And in the meantime, while we were going to school, the gift for my dad as being the, branch manager or warehouse manager, is we were able to, he was able to get us jobs. So my first job working in this industry was really working in the trash. And knowing that being around chemicals and stuff, that, the rules and the regulations are don't touch, don't taste, don't drink. Just make sure you get rid of all the drums that the guys throw at you, cut them up properly. Don't cut your leg off, you harm your fingers. And also figure out how to kick off some of those chemicals that you don't know what they are. So it was kind of a learning. I kind of like that trial by fire. You learn, it's like, here you go. And I proved myself be able to clean bathrooms, keep garbage cans clean, and the trash area with all the chemicals cleaned. And they started promoting me, if you will. I did have to join a union, by the way. So that was interesting too. I was not familiar with breaks all the time and those kind of things, but I learned to accept It's what I loved about all that. Nothing was easy. And the whole time when I was working there, I felt like my dad gave me a job. So it was kind of a unique situation where people don't like in the beginning, because I'm sure you probably went through this, but your dad's the boss, so you're the boob. So everyone beats up on the new guy, and especially the boss. So you just take your lumps and you fight and you smile and you just keep working. And no matter what happens, you just do your thing. And it worked out great. So then I graduated to, or promoted to, filling dryers and certain chemical powders and testing those powders and dumping those into reactors and then going into the filling room. So like Vulcan 116, most people in the entire world have heard of Vulcan 116. So I used to fill those actually one by one at a time. And it was just a great learning situation. And I think you asked me earlier in this video or podcast, were you ever thinking you're going to do this? Absolutely not. I was thinking I'm doing this for summer, making money, paying union dues, getting paid half as much as everybody else, but it was still working. It still helped me survive during school while I was at school. And, going to go play baseball. I'm going to be a professional athlete. Well, here I am selling cars. So let's talk about how that all turned out, right? So, but it was a long time ago, but it actually helped set me up for going out into sales and stuff like that. And it didn't dawn on me what I was doing when I was working there, reading those batch cards until I became an outside sales rep for Tremco. And you're just like, wow. And the people that, I'm very thankful. My dad was, he's still alive. He's a very decent human being, and he's all about straightforward. I'm sure you get that from me from our years of working together. But straightforward, honest, there's no gray area. So I had to learn how to figure out how to get that gray area in there. But intimidating man, smart man, and he didn't tolerate failure. If you're second, you're last, if you're not first. But one thing he always instilled in us that I'll never, ever, forget, you can be first, do it right. Do it right. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Do it right. And boy, that is I'm very thankful, and boy, do I sit at home and cry sometimes talking about that stuff. But yes, and it works. You can do it. You can do everything. You can be first if you want, doing it right. It's just kind of, it's tough. It's a tough road to toe, but I love him for it. And he's thankfully still healthy and retired down in Florida, because I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. State law is what we always say, back home with all my friends, is you're retired of Florida. So they're in Florida, and he's one hell of a golfer.
Well, you didn't go to Florida, but you went to California, and I know it has its own challenges, but, we can all agree the weather is definitely better in Southern California than it is in Ohio.
Well, so when I was hired for Trump to be outside sales, they moved me to California. So I was trying to think, was that my dad's design, my parents to kind of get a whole country between us? But yeah, you're right. California has better weather than even Florida. It's dry. It's not as moist and damp.
For sure. And, beautiful beaches. I mean, you really don't have a lot to complain about from that perspective.
I'm a salesman. Of course I can complain. Come on.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. So, and it's interesting because it's amazing the impact our upbringings have. And you're talking about how, that influenced your parents, and then probably digging in the trash and doing all the things you did, how much that impacts some of the decisions you make in your life. I do know through the years of working with you, one of the things that has been a common theme whenever you've talked to me about leadership or people being able to approach their work ethic, you've always referenced sport. That's one of the most common things that comes out in you. And so what do you think it is about people who do participate in sports or have experience with sports, and how that impacts their everyday and how they approach their job?
So, thank you for all that. I appreciate that. Thank you for noticing. It's an honor. I hope my dad gets to see this, because he'll be proud. The thing is, what I like about people that are athletes, I mean, obviously, as I said earlier, you're playing with a team. If, say you and I are playing baseball and I'm playing shortstop, because that's what I did, and I'd make an error, you wouldn't sit over there and go, we lost because of him, right? There's still at least four bats are going to have in a game. There's going to be a bunch of other pitches, foul balls, calls, steals, base, sliding, all that stuff, calls from umpires. Okay. So I always like the fact that if you can fit within a group, and the whole thing about individualism is, hey, you want to be an individual, go ahead, go go be a tennis player, go be a hockey or a wrestler. And so far, every time I've ever worked with someone like that, they've never made it because they're working individually. Not saying that they're bad people, it's just working as a group. And that's really how I went about teaching all the people that I work with. Is like, when I first started here at Sunshine, they were all mostly individuals. And I said, why don't we just work together as a group and start sharing information and helping each other? Actually, this wasn't a complete design. I'll give a props to one of my bosses that I met when I worked at Lowry's, because I used to work at Lowry's. Craig Derrickson is the one that set that standard, is don't work individually, work as a group. And it really meant a lot to me. It's because you're always going to have a leader. There's always people that are going to jump out and want to be a leader. There's people that say they want to be a leader, but it's a whole different ball of wax. I'm sure you get it now. I definitely get it now. Even working as a group, and then when you get promoted, within your group, and then you become a manager, and you're like, wow, now I'm managing the people that were my friends and peers. And all of a sudden you learn as a manager, now I'm stupid. All my peers that I liked and appreciated how I worked, and now I'm holding the line and pushing the company line. Now I don't understand anything. So it's a unique situation, but I will never say I didn't like any of it, because it teaches you how to be better. Okay. Just like my dad, working as a team and trying to find somebody better. I mean, if this is business, this is sports, especially in professional sports. It's, free agency, people quit, people die, people, get hurt. You got to keep working, got to keep pushing. But if you help each other, then there's nothing, you can't break that bond, and it's really trying to make people who talk about family, because we all hear it about in companies, we're family. It's like, yeah, but I really want it to be. I really, if someone's pregnant, and let's find out, hey, can we help them keep selling, keep pushing? How do we get that individual, make them happy, their goals, getting a house, car? I'd love to have everyone's spouse not have to work, because we're working, stuff like that. That to me is family. And working hard as a.
Yeah, and absolutely, and we're a small family business as well. And the hard part, I do talk to people in my organization, I've been around it, is families also have challenging times as well, and they don't always get along. So that's actually part of the family dynamic. I don't think that being in business means that you have to play nice all the time. There is a job we have to do every day when we get up, and sometimes those are challenges and that sort of thing. So I did want to go back a little bit to your journey in waterproofing, because you have seen a lot. You've been involved in quite a few projects in your career and have a tremendous amount of success. What do you think has changed related to waterproofing? So maybe from your early days to now, or is there anything, methods or approaches, or is there any new technology you've seen that really revolutionized the industry, in your opinion?
Well, there's one of the quotes that I've always lived by, which is kind of weird, is tradition breeds inertia, right? So, that means that nothing, you keep doing tradition, nothing ever changes as long as you keep doing the tradition, right? Blah, blah, blah. But the reality of life is, in sales and in California, for one, I can tell you, being out in California, sometimes the saying goes, if it's a good product, and I think I've told you this when I first met you, whatever you have, whatever goo adhesive you have, trust me, California's going to change the VOCs, and what is today won't be tomorrow. So my famous quote of this is that's what I love. It's just, I personally like changes. I love it. I love working with different people. I love working with people like you, that you think outside the box, and the passion that you have. But again, the saying in California is, if you like something today, don't worry, it's going to change tomorrow. But being that in our California territory of VOCs, and we care about the whole organics and the sky, that's all good stuff, right? But we're on the forefront. We're always changing. We're always trying, STPEs now, and cold tar freeze, and hot rubbers, and how does one tie into the other? And not all hot rubbers are the same. Not all cold fluid applies. Not all STPEs. So those kind of, what's changed from when I first started, okay, well, we were allowed to, at least in California, sell something that had 86% solids. Pretty much now here, and after, I wish I could tell you 10 years, but say like 30 years later now, you really can't sell anything that has a VOC, as you will have learned as a manufacturer selling into California. And it's also, it's one of those, one of the nicest, one of those things that kind of, hey, sometimes we're a little pompous in California, like we start this and then everybody follows, right? But it's also, to me, I take it as a different way. It's like, if this works, then everyone else will do it, right? So it's like, again, kind of that leader type thing. But, oh man, I've seen a lot of different changes. The way the air barriers are looked at, the way consultants that I've had very fortunate friends that I've developed in relationships working with them, how they were able to take me and teach me how they view things. And then to collaborate with like a general contractor, then your architect, then your consultant, and the building owner's rep, and then the owner, and going to green and net zeros and all these little terms that you throw in there. But it's just so much fun for me. That's why I always like that tradition breeds inertia. It's like, that's out here. And always push to better how you do everything. And I think California is pretty good with that. I mean, I've traveled in a lot of different states. You mentioned some of the territories we had, but I also worked in Arizona and Vegas as well. And every state does a lot of, does waterproofing different. It's so amazing. As we always say one job is different than the other. It's like, boy, get on a plane, leave California, and you're like, boy, that's completely different. Not just the products, the people, the way they look at things. It's a kaleidoscope, man. But it's fun.
That's a good way to put it, for sure. Because I mean, I can tell you, you service the country, and our background of those organization was in manufacturing, and in manufacturing, honestly, it seems like there's less variables. I never thought I would say that, but if you're going to make a widget in Texas and you're going to make the same widget in California, maybe some regulation changes, but in general, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. We go from Spokane, Washington down to Miami, and you look at these job sites and you scratch your head like, well, why are you doing this? This is, and sometimes, I'll be fair, I will say this about construction and contractors, and especially the people in the field, is they're some of the most creative people I've ever met. Because what happens is an architect, engineer, they spec whatever it is, and then they get to that job site and they go, well, you do realize we only have 2 feet in order to install this 4-foot section, because we got this building, or whatever it is that wasn't considered as part of the drawing process, and they get it done. And I think that's a part of our industry that doesn't get celebrated enough, is that the people in the field really have to be tremendously creative and flexible, for sure. Now, do they always find the best way of doing it? Not always.
But that's our job, though. We're supposed to help them, right? So you're right. I mean, it's that whole collaboration, and you see a drawing in a picture of a blueprint, and you're like, okay, we're never going to see that straight of a wall. We're not going to see that straight of a floor, all that kind of stuff. But it's unique with the wonderful people that you work with. And that's, what's changed is, for me, is getting older and developing longer term relationships. And sometimes you suffer, sometimes you upset people. But what I love about our industry is we're all in it. I mean, it's kind of like what I tell most of my folks, that when I hire them or they work with me, you're in this past 2.5, 3 years, you're not leaving. You might as well not be. Don't blow up any bridges. And there's people I can tell you sometimes but you're like, oh no, I love them again. It's just, that's how our industry goes. And it's just amazing how our industry is so open to each other. Even if you're, don't like somebody, if they're in a issue, or you call someone and say, hey, I'm in a pinch, our industry actually reaches out and helps those people. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about basically, it's what I love about this whole darn industry, is what I can tell my folks, what you put into it, especially in sales, the effort you put into it, you will get out of it, period. Because every customer, guy, girl, woman, male, female, all the terms, they understand passion, they understand effort. And those things are always rewarded. If you're going to be lazy and, shoot the bull, if you will, we'll find you. It'll find you. In our industry, as I said earlier, will humble you. So, but I do like those collaborations, and California is different. For below grade, you brought up some jobs, I'll say. So like working in Northern California on the BART tunnels, it's kind of like the 8th wonder of the world up there. And there's a lot of water up there, and there's a lot of different designs and the folks that you work with, and you could step into a trailer and see 30, 35 people that I know have way better college degrees or way better degrees to me. They look smarter. Heck, they smell smart. It's like, you're asking me how to waterproof this? Okay. but they give you that opportunity and you dive in, and that's what I love about that type of stuff. I get to work around geniuses, and I give people who don't have a degree an opportunity to become a genius. And I keep telling people, you don't need to have a degree. You don't, not in our industry. If you work hard, have passion, study, learn, take people's advice, you're going to be fine. You're talking to a guy that has parents that pushed us, right? As I said earlier, my second sister, she was different than the rest of us. She graduated barely out of high school, and she started in a marketing company in the mailroom at 18. At 42 years old, my sister with barely a high school degree became the president of a marketing firm. Wow. So I've never looked at you have to have a degree or anything like that. That's it. It should be that way for everybody. Again, passion, knowledge, effort, that should be rewarded. Not a degree, not because your parents had money or you got lucky for a scholarship, whatever. That's my opinion. I think everyone deserves a shot.
Yeah, and probably not enough time today to have this conversation, but our industry, construction as a whole, has been suffering through a little bit of a workforce shortage for years now. And again, this may be episode 2. We do a deep dive into this.
Well, you guys want to talk to me again? Okay.
Yeah, but there is I do think, unfortunately, in the world we live in today, is construction sometimes gets shunned. It doesn't get celebrated as being a software engineer and that sort of thing. And there are some fantastic jobs in our industry, and you can make really good money and be very successful if you have the right attitude and a lot of things you've already addressed. So we're going to come back to that one on the next episode. I'm going to jump. Yeah, exactly. Look forward to Nick Sandru part 2 coming soon. I want to kind of just wrap up one thing. You talked about the BART tunnel, which is something you've mentioned to me before, something you're really proud to work on. 8th wonder of the world. If you don't live in California, what is it? What was so cool about that job?
So one, there's a tremendous amount of people working on a job, and like one section of the tunnel that we worked on is called the BART Warm Springs, and it's like 1.8 million square feet. So you don't want that to leak, right? So you're basically living on those jobs. You're watching all the way they pour the concrete, the way the rebar's laid in. You're trying to find the best products, and no matter what you do, it's one thing that I've learned in this process of selling. If anybody out there says I'm perfect, never had an error, don't work with them. Don't buy it. I'm sorry. Again, it goes back to my dad with being honest. I just know that there's something's going to happen, right? So it's about building those relationships, knowing that something's going to happen at some point. And that was my stopgap. That was for me, is like, I actually would sell to people like those developers and designers on the BART saying, I hope something happens. And they look at you like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, then you'll know who I am. Am I going to be the guy that just takes the phone? Oh boy, there must be a leak, and let me pass it off to all the other people. Or am I going to actually answer the phone and say, I hear you. They're going to be mad. That's fair. Everyone has a right to be upset. And it's like, what time can you be there? And I'll be there, get dressed, dive in there, and you start going at it. And you just work collaboratively to figure out these problems. And even when it's the worst problem in the world, the hardest part is, yes, I go home and I'm like, I'm like everybody else in this world. I want to go home and I cry in my pillow and scream and go, why, Lord? Please help me find the answer. But it does. And when it's all said and done, you do find out, man, you're so much stronger as long as you keep those relationships, as long as you keep the rumors it's down. And it's not, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not worried about money. That was always my thing I've been able to work with people like Ken Klein at SGH. And you look at some of these consultants that are so well known, so well rounded compared to me. And you're like, I'm not worried about making money. Okay. I've been doing this for 30 years. I got the gray hair to prove it, and I'm not a millionaire. I just want to do things right. I need loyalty. And then as you get older, you realize where the real money is. It's not money, it's friendships. Who am I going to be able to hang out with when I do retire? That's what I want to know. Have fun. Do I get to laugh at you and go, hey man, how's the economy? When if I'm golfing on the 19th hole, if you will, and saying, hey Chad, you're like 10 years behind me. How's it still going out there? But to also talk to you and give you ideas. I know I'm kind of going off script, but the reality of my life is I've been so fortunate. And the thing is, how do I pass it forward, right? I got to work with Gary Wilson at Tremco. That guy is an absolute amazing genius with below grade waterproofing. So when you say, "Oh, Nick, you're really smart," it's like, yeah, well, maybe I was just smart enough to listen, right, and take pictures. And so Gary Wilson was amazing. I got to work with Jerry McMorrow, who's very well known in California. With Lowry's, we were a damn good company. We worked really hard together. They were guys at our age, and we were just like, "How are we going to do this?" And it was just always work, push, drive, try to be better than everybody else, and be an extension of people. And God bless them. They sell out to Beacon, and they're off into the ether and having a good time. But they're good people, And it's like, well, now I got to go over to Sunshine, and I get to meet Jim Pyle, and he's the owner. He's like, okay, let's see, I'll try this again, and you start all over again. Again, tradition and inertia, right? Start all over, do something different, find different products, find different relationships. But sorry, there's some of those people that, when you guys say nice stuff to me, and I really do appreciate it. I know a lot of it's not me. It's because I get to work with Ken Klein and Annie Lowe and, Fonda and the McGinnis Chin people and, Walker and Sean Connolly. It's like all those people that younger, older, same age that helped me. They took the time to give me, to teach me. And it's like, God, I'm so thankful for those people. It's amazing. So, but thank you. I appreciate it. And I just try to take it and write it down and memorize it.
Exactly. Hang it up on the wall somewhere. Well, and so I'll wrap up on this, and Nick, really appreciate your time today and spending a little bit with us. And I'll kind of take what you just said and bring it back to your sports analogies and the things we've talked about previously. And that is, anyone who's been successful in sports, whether or not you're winning the Super Bowl or being successful in hockey, whatever the sport is, being thankful to people that have taught you along the way and your teammates, because ultimately that's what it's all about. It's funny you're bringing up the 19th hole. I'm with you. I'd like to be able to be friends with people at the end of all this. It's not
You'll
just
probably beat me there.
Maybe I'll invite you out if that happens. So I'm going to give you a quick second. I do want to, fill me in on Sunshine, let the people know about your organization, and just kind of let us know what's going on with you and your company.
Okay, so Sunshine was started in 1971. Ed Wallman started it. He retired and passed the company over to Jim Pyle in 2016. I personally never really had a lot to deal with, work with him. When he was running the company, I was over at Lowry's working with those guys. But right after the time that Mr. Wallman retired, and Jim and him worked out taking over the company, then Mr. Pyle and I connected. Jim Edwards actually introduced us together. He's one of our best reps in our company. He's been there for like 20 years, and talking to Mr. Pyle, and he says, "Hey, looking to grow, looking to do something different, and I keep hearing you're the crazy guy that's willing to work and do this stuff." So I'm like, I like a challenge. So, and I don't know what was happening with Lowry's, but time for me to move on. So reality is, Sunshine has, to me, it's you try to say these things without sounding like like a movie star in Hollywood. So I'm from California. Like, I don't want to over gush it. It's just wonderful people, really family oriented. We have, in my mind's eye, and going through this pandemic, maybe you've heard the rumors, but to have the dynamic reps that we have like 5 or 6 of us that there's not 25 years plus. So I got Bill Stivers and you got Jim Edwards down there. Just absolutely do a fantastic job down there. They've been part of this company forever, and they've given me the opportunity to still give them ideas, and it's really nice. Yes, it's tough in the beginning, but we're all seeing these things. You see how they grow, and then we are fortunate enough to get Deborah Hudson, who's one of the best one-part salespeople in the entire United States. And I don't care if anybody says she's, they're so better than her. I haven't found them, and she's absolutely amazing. And then you work with Bryce Routon, another guy's been with Sunshine for a long time, and he's Mr. GE. He actually defends and sells against Dow, the almighty Dow. Dow's a great company, and they're great people, and he's always fighting and selling against them. And he's made he's cut his own piece out of there, and he's fantastic. And he's actually sold the Ram Stadium with all the GE air barriers and stuff. And then you got the creme de la creme of Phil Cleveland. Him and I used to compete against each other. We first met each other. This is funny about when we go back to this, when we're talking about industry and you work with people, come back together someday. I met him working as a Mamico rep before Tremco and Mamico merged, and he was a Sonneborn rep. And then I moved to California. He moves to California. He's working in Vegas. And long story short, Phil and I revolve around each other. It was like railroad tracks. We're just parallel to each other. We keep running into each other. We always respected each other. And then finally, I finally begged him and said, can we get this damn rail to connect and start run? And it's been, can't be more happier to have him, And by the way, he's a veteran too. So, and then you got Gary up there in Salt Lake City, and he's been around for a very long time too, with a tremendous amount of follow through and customer relationships. And then the two new guys that we have in Denver with Nick Burney and James McPeters. And it's just, I love the company. I love working with the folks. We've got our office staff. May upset other people in the world, but we have second to none office staff people. I've never seen kids know so much. And Mr. Pyle, when you put it all together, the plugging of Sunshine is just the opportunity that gentleman gives us. That's it. That's the best part. And he really just, here, go. And that was kind of how Keith and Michael ran it too over at Lowry's. Just, here you go. See what we can do. No, this, that, but go. And if, my plan was always this. Find the good people that want to do it right, and trust me, Mr. Pyle and Ed Wollman always did it right. There's a lot of people that, hopefully they're watching this, that'll totally agree. No one will ever disagree with me that Ed Wollman and Jim Pyle did anything but the right way. They always did. So it's intriguing to me, like saying back in my beginning with my parents. So that's fun, and to help grow that, to push that, and to see if we can go to bigger heights. Like one of them is opening up a new warehouse, going from I'm not sure the square footage that we're in now, but like say 7,800 square feet, we're going to a 30,000. And we're still doing that in the middle of this pandemic. And the reason why you can do certain things like that in the pandemic is, one, good planning. Two, you have damn good reps and a good owner that's willing to give you that chance to take the risk, And then
open up the checkbook.
You just don't want to let people down when you see those types of willingness to take those risks. And our guys are fantastic. And we're looking to grow, we're looking to add. So if anyone's out there interested, let us know.
Absolutely. Well, in one of our last episodes, we had a gentleman on that talked about leadership and to be the leader, that you would want to follow. And I think, Nick, with you and all the years I've known you now, is that you're an extremely passionate person.
Oh, thank you.
You put your actions behind your words. And so thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate you being with us. And I'm looking forward to growing with Sunshine, and I hope you guys are much success through all this mess. So thank you.
Same to everybody out there and you too. I mean, it's been a pleasure working with you and your passion, buddy. It's really, I love it. I love it. Thank you guys so much.
No problem.
And I hope you guys do let me do another one. Hopefully the world's okay with it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how the ratings go. We'll see where it goes.
Come on. What do they say? Like American Idol, it's like, call this number, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We'll have them text in.
Vote for me.
1-800 glue down, text that you like, Nick.
Forget that. Right, call Sunshine.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding.
All right,
Thank you very much, though. Appreciate all and all the people there helping with all this phones and computers and stuff.
Yeah, and I not to delay this goodbye any longer, but thank you to your wife as well for helping us this morning with getting some of the technology stuff correct and getting that resolved. So thank you.
The real boss knew how to get it all fixed now, didn't she? I'm going to hear all about this later.
Yeah, rightfully so. Rightfully so. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, Nick. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Love you, bud. Appreciate it. Thank you.